Hello, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, we're going to be discussing everything to do with cold email deliverability. This is going to be a comprehensive video talking about everything. That includes warming up emails. That's going to be including getting the right email accounts, making sure your domains are set up the right way, lead verification, making sure your sending volume is on point. We're going to make sure you're using message alternators, what not to put in your cold emails. We're going to discuss open rate tracking, whether you should use them, whether you should not use them. We're going to talk about email signatures, and we're even going to talk about how to make emails that just don't suck. And if you do all 10 of these things, you're going to be able to go and get results just like this. You can see that we have a 0.53% bounce rate, which indeed means that we have a 99.57% deliverability, and we're doing this consistently, not for only our email campaigns, but for the email campaigns of our clients. Okay, now with that being said, let's just get right into the video. I have a lot that we could share. I think you guys are going to learn something from this. Okay, now let's get right into it. So first thing, warming up email accounts. Now, warming up email accounts is the first step of the cold email process. Now, no matter what email provider, no matter what sending software, no matter what leads you use, you always need to do this, right? Warming up emails basically means that you're going to use some sort of software like Smartly or Instantly, right, to send real looking cold emails back and forth from your email accounts to make them look like they're having real conversations. Now, in the examples and in the settings below, I'm going to be talking about how to do that, and we're going to show you how we do it for ourselves and for our clients. And in the pictures, we are using SmartLead. Now, even if you don't use SmartLead, these options are pretty much available on every major tool, so just look for them. Okay, now the first thing we're going to talk about is the total number of warm-up emails per day. Now, what we like to do is we like to do 35 total emails per day. Reason being is because when we start actually sending, that's about the volume that we do. It's about 35 to 40 emails. So that's pretty much what we put for that. Then daily ramp up. Now this is going to be basically a setting that's not going to, or enabling it is not going to make you start right away at 35 cold emails or, warm up emails per day. It's going to scale you up, right? And that's the best way to do it because in that case, it's not going to look like it's a software doing it, but it's going to look like it's a real person. And at that point, we like to put 4. Then the next thing, randomized number of warm-up emails per day. We like to do 25 to 35. The reason this setting exists is because obviously people don't send an exact amount of emails every single day exactly the same way at the exact same time, right? Obviously people, they send different amounts of emails on different amount of days, so it's emulating how a user would do it. And then reply rate is 35. Obviously, when you send emails, sometimes you'll get a response, so that's kind of what that does. And all of these settings make for a really good warm-up period, and then in that warm-up period, which I'll talk on in a little bit, you basically end up getting really, really warmed up emails, okay? Now, the settings that I just showed you above, they're just my settings. You can change them. If you like, you can adjust them. It's all up to you. But there's one thing about this that you cannot change, and that is your warm-up period. Now, this is for how long you're going to be running the warm-up period for before you start sending actual cold emails, and that is 2 weeks. This time frame is constant for everybody. No matter who you ask, no matter what software you use, it'll always be 2 weeks. Okay? Meaning, if in theory you buy, connect, and start your warming up period on June 1st, the soonest that you can start doing outreach is going to be June 15th. Okay? Now, a popular misconception that people have is when you're done with the 2-week warm-up period, you're just going to shut off the warm-up and you're just going to continue sending, or you're going to start sending your cold emails. Now, that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to keep your warm-up period on forever and in congruence, start sending your actual cold emails. Now, this does not affect your volume. It's not like you decided that, I'm going to send 40 emails, 40 cold emails per day per email account, and then you just turn off warm-up and all of a sudden you can send 80. That's not how that works. You can send whatever amount you're going to send with the cold emails, but warm-up period has to be on. Okay, and I'll touch on that later. Now, number 2, getting the right email accounts. So for those of you who already have heard, all of the major public cold email infrastructure providers are really starting to crack down on people doing cold email. Now, I'm not going to go into why this is happening in this particular video, just because, I already made a video on this. I'm going to link it down below and somewhere here on the top, right? But with that being said, In order to have good deliverability, you're going to need to choose a good email provider. Now, if you do everything in this video that I'm about to talk about, but you just go like Zoho or like some other bad public provider, you're not going to get results, and it won't even be your fault, right? You're just not supposed to be sending emails off that platform. Now, the three major public infrastructure providers, at the time of recording this video, and by the way, that's a disclaimer. When you watch this video, check when it was posted, because things in the cold email world, they change a lot very quickly. So just because this is relevant today, it might not be relevant in a year or two, okay? So just make sure that what you're listening to and what you're watching right now is still relevant to you. But at the time of recording this video, the three most popular public infrastructure providers, Google, Microsoft, Zoho. Now, Google just recently started cracking down on cold email, and they're starting to make it harder and more expensive to send cold emails, therefore kind of making people not want to use Google as much anymore, right? Microsoft, they're really the only decent option left, but in the future, they'll also inevitably, put stricter, I guess, rules, and people won't use Microsoft either. But at the moment, Microsoft's the only decent option. And then the third thing is Zoho. Now, Zoho is just a straight up no. Do not use Zoho. You're going to get banned so quickly. Like it's in their TOS. Like you don't want to use Zoho, right? Period. Now, the better solution to using public infrastructure is, and for those of you who already watched my other videos, you'll already know about this, but it's using a private infrastructure provider. Now, private infrastructure providers are companies who have the same servers, just like Google, just like Microsoft, just like Zoho, but they actually want you to do cold email. That's their business model, right? And now again, I'm not going to go into this heavily in this video, but I am going to link a video I made about private infrastructure somewhere here, and it's also going to be in this document. This document is going to be in the description, so, wherever you want to go, either at the top somewhere, or you can go in this document, watch this video, okay? Now moving on. Making sure that your domains are set up the right way. Now, this is also very important. Now, when you start cold email, you're going to need domains for your email accounts, right? And one thing that I will say is never use your core domain as a cold email domain, right? Those two should never mix with each other. Always buy secondary sending domains, which will all look like your core domain. So for example, let's say that your agency's name is advertising.com. If you want to launch cold email with, say, 50 accounts, you're going to need 25 domains. And that's because we only recommend you do 2 emails per domain. Some people recommend 1, some people recommend 3, some people even recommend 4. We say 2. That's what we have gotten the best results with. Okay? Now, if you want to, use the name advertising.com in theory, then these are going to be some of the names that you could do for your secondary domains. GoAdvertising.com, WeAreAdvertising.com, TheAdvertising.com, AdvertisingAgency.com, and so on, right? I'm not going to read all these examples, but, that's kind of like the concept, right? You're just going to put sort of words in the front and in the end, and in return, make email domains that are secondary. Now, some key things to remember. Number 1, never use numbers or symbols in your domain names. Do not do the-advertising-agency.com. Never do the-advertising-agency12.com. Reason being is, and this isn't necessarily going to hurt your deliverability, it just doesn't look right? Like no big company would do dashes in their name or numbers in their name, right? Just people won't do that, so just don't do it either. Number 2, preferably always use .com domain endings. Now, a lot of people in the cold email world, they actually have an opinion on this. A lot of people think that this is going to hurt your deliverability, it's going to do something, but from our personal experience, it doesn't have any effect on deliverability. But we still do use .com domain endings for our clients because of the fact that they look more legitimate. Now, for those of you who don't know why someone wouldn't use it, a .com domain is $12 a year. A .info domain or .biz domain is $4 per year. Now, that $8 difference could add up if you're buying a lot of domains, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter. If you're going to be even half decent at cold email, that little price difference isn't going to make it that much of a difference, right? And also, you guys should really not approach a lot of the outreach stuff and a lot of the stuff in business with a, how can I save the most, but how can I earn the most, right? Even though, in theory, buying these domains would be 3 times more expensive, you're, even 1% more trust even if it gets you one more deal for your whole life, it'll pay for the domains and many times over. So I would honestly just say, buy the .coms, pay the $12, period. Okay? Then, always forward your secondary domains to your main domain. Now, let's just say you bought your 25 domains. You're obviously not going to go make an independent website for every 25 domains, right? Obviously, it doesn't make sense. What you're going to do is you're going to forward all of those domains to the main domain. And reason being is, say, you get an email from Bob at theadvertisingagency.com. If you take that theadvertisingagency.com, you put it in your browser and you click enter, and you see that it doesn't exist, it doesn't matter how good Bob's offer is, it doesn't matter how anything is, you're just not going to trust him. So you're not going to move forward with it. Now, if you do use a private infrastructure, right, they're going to do this for you. If you don't use private infrastructure and you have some sort of public infrastructure, you're going to have to do this yourself. Now, there's usually some sort of guide online on how to do it. Like if you, for example, use GoDaddy, I would just search up like how to forward domains on GoDaddy. If you use something like, Porkbun, you could just search up how to forward domains on Porkbun. There's guides online. It's not hard. It'll take you like 30 minutes, but that's that. Then the last but not least is setting up the DNS records. Now, this section really only applies to if you are using a public infrastructure provider, because most of the private ones will also do this for you, okay? Now, for those of you who are using public providers, for every domain that you have, you need to set up 3 essential DNS records to make sure you have the best deliverability. That includes DMARC, SPF, and DKIM. Now, I have a little chart right here on how DMARC works, and to be honest, you don't need to understand the technicals here. I guess it's nice to know, and I will explain it in like a simple way down below, but you don't need to know this to do cold email, okay? Now, SPF, DKIM, and DMARC are like a security team for your cold emails, and they work together to make sure that your emails, most importantly, go to the inbox, but also, are trustworthy. Now, SPF tells mail servers which senders are allowed to send emails from your domain, reducing the chances of your cold emails being mistaken for spam. Now, let's say that, advertising.com has two emails connected to it. And, Bob, and then there's John. So it's like Bob at advertising.com and then John at advertising.com. Now, in that particular situation, if somebody wanted to just go and just, spoof their email and do Robert at advertising.com, if you don't have SPF working, that's it. They can just send emails as if they're from your company, right? That's obviously a problem. And that's why when you don't have it enabled, other mail servers will kind of not believe that that email is real. SPF makes it so that's not possible, meaning you can only send a domain from an email that exists, right? Or you can only send, I guess, an email from an email address that exists on that domain. Now, DKIM adds a digital signature to your emails, assuring that receivers that your email hasn't been tampered with. Now, again, sounds very technical, sounds very complicated. Doesn't matter to do cold email. I'm just explaining it for the people who are interested. And then DMARC sets the rules for how receivers should handle your emails if they don't pass SPF or DKIM checks, and it will report back to you if there are any issues. Now, when you have all 3 of these records in place, your odds of hitting the inbox will increase dramatically. Okay? Now, next slide. Now, number 4, lead verification. Now, lead verification is an essential part in the cold email process. Once you scrape your lead list from whatever platform, whether it's Apollo or something similar, you're not going to have 100% valid leads. Now, some businesses go out of business, some employees leave their positions, some employees get replaced, and all of this causes a whole lot of inaccurate data, right? And remember, all lead lists really decay with time, so it's inevitable. Now, luckily for us, the cold emailers, there are tools which can let us check email addresses before we send emails to them. Now, the most common check, and the check that you should always be doing, is an SMTP check. Now, just like the stuff with the DNS records, you don't really need to understand how it all works behind the scenes. You don't need to understand the technical stuff, but I will explain it for those who are curious. Now, in simple terms, when you do an SMTP check, you're basically just sending a request to a mail server and saying, hey, does this email exist on this domain, right? That's really all you're doing. And sometimes that email server will tell you the answer. Sometimes it'll tell you, yes, this does. Sometimes tell me maybe, and I'll touch on that later. But again, I've already made a very in-depth video talking about list building, finding your ICP, how to verify leads the best way, when to verify leads certain ways, when to verify leads other ways. And if you are interested in this, which you should be, because it's the second most important part of email aside from deliverability, then you can watch this video right here. Once again, this document's going to be in the description, or I'm going to put this video somewhere here in the top, but there you guys go. Right? If you are interested, you can watch that. Then sending volume. Now, sending volume plays a big role in your deliverability because you can't abuse it. At the time of recording this video, an average email account can send about 40 cold emails per day. Now, that number is not including the warm-up emails that it is also doing, right? And like the domain settings, there is kind of like a conversation in the email world about how you should do this, and I'll touch on that right now. Now, some people say you should start off with like 5 a day as soon as your emails are done warming up, and then you scale to 10, to 15, to 20, to 25, to 30 over time. Now, personally, in the agency, we don't do that. We've tested it. It's made no difference, right? We just kind of start off. We'll do like 30 and then like maybe 2 days and 35 and then 40. We don't do like a massive like from 5 to 40, right? We don't do that. Now, I am also sending exclusively on private infrastructure, so that could have something to do with it. If you are using public infrastructure, maybe you should warm up your emails, but in my particular case, it's not a problem. And for all of the clients in our lead generation agency, Borks, and for ourselves, we do this. And as you can see in the screenshot right here, we have a 0.53% bounce rate, meaning we have 99.47% deliverability. So it seems like it's fine. We don't have any deliverability issues. So personally, for us, this doesn't make a difference. But again, if you want to be safe, do it. If you want to just get started, then don't do it. But in our situation, it doesn't make a difference. Next thing, message alternators. So Spintax, which is short for spinning syntax, is a popular message alternator that most of the cold email sending softwares like SmartLead and Instantly support. Now, Spintax sentences look like this, right? Now, all of the stuff that's bolded here is a variable, which means it changes, and then all the stuff that isn't bolded is just kind of like static text. Now, if you inputted something like this into SmartLead, you'd start getting responses like this. So, and pay attention to what's happening here. This right here, what I have highlighted, is one element of Spintax. And it's basically using a greater than and less than symbol to encapsulate these options. And then each option is spread by a line. So, hey, howdy, hi, hello, what's up is the same thing. It's just a way to greet somebody. But it's a different way of doing it. And my name is Georgie, but you could also call me George. So here I use George and Georgie as a Spintax thing. And here my agency name, which is Borks, you could also say Borks Marketing, right? And the idea is that you're saying the same thing differently. So when you send the final email, and I guess the sending softwares are, not sending software, but sending servers are checking, are you sending the same email to detect if you're spamming? You're not. You're sending an email that has the same meaning, but it's not the same email. And if you put this into some cold email software, we'd get a response like this. For example, what's up, Bob? This is Georgie from Borks. We're a lead generation firm that specializes at outbound email. Or, hey, Julia, this is Georgie from Borks. We are a lead gen company that excels at cold email, email marketing. Or, howdy, Rob. This is Georgie from Borks Marketing. We're a lead generation firm that specializes at cold email. Now, everything I just said is the same thing, but you're just saying it differently, which is going to help your deliverability. And I have more examples here if you like, but that's kind of the concept. Now, if you pay attention, the only words that are congruent within all the sentences is this is, from, that, and at. And if this was a real campaign, we'd probably even find a way to Spintax that, so there wouldn't be any common words, right? And that's kind of the concept of what we do. Now, everything is constantly changing in those sentences, so it's going to become a lot harder to detect what is spam and what isn't spam for these mail servers, right? And even here, this isn't that much Spintax. Like if this was a real campaign, we would really put a lot of Spintax into it just to ensure that we have the best deliverability. Okay, now moving forward. What not to put in your cold emails. Now, there aren't many guidelines on what you shouldn't put in your cold emails, but here are the most popular ones. Number 1, never include links in your cold emails. Do not say something like, hey, name, this is Georgie from Borks, and then put the website. Do not do that. Just don't. This is going to kill your deliverability. The next thing, refrain from uploading images or files in your first email. So just like links, images or files could potentially be malicious. Do not do that. Do not send these, right? Especially if you're going to be sending a lot of emails. If it's going to be down the line, like, you're sending over a loom, that's fine, but do not send in the first email. And then you also should refrain from fancy email signatures, like something like this. Never use this in your emails, right? This very clearly breaks the 2 rules I just mentioned. It has both links and it both has images. Don't do that. And we're going to talk about email signatures later down the line, by the way. Then open rate tracking. Now, for those of you who don't already know, open rate tracking works by placing a transparent 1x1 pixel into your cold email that fires off when displayed in a cold email. Now, the concept behind it is that it's basically a hidden code which only runs when someone opens the email. And obviously, when they open that email, that is counted towards the open rate, which in turn makes it work, right? But just like the slide before this one, I mentioned that you should ideally keep the images and URLs off the emails. This is the same concept, right? You should be disabling the open rate tracking feature of your sending tool to maximize the deliverability. Now, what we usually do is we'll launch a campaign with it enabled. We'll let it run for a week to collect open rates to determine how relevant our subject line and I guess like preview text is. And then we'll immediately disable it. And none of our campaigns that have been running for over a week have ever had that on. And that's kind of what allows us to have great deliverability. Now, if I'm being 100% honest, these are all vanity metrics in the end of the day, right? Open rate, response rate, etc. They're all just noise. The only real metric that you should be measuring and actually caring about is call booking rate, which is just the amount of emails you sent divided by the amount of calls you booked. Okay? Now the last thing, or the second to last thing, email signatures. You should be including an email signature in all of your cold emails. Now, I know Smartly and Instantly support automatic email signature appending, so as long as you have that set up, you should have those softwares automatically place it in your cold emails for you. Now, you still need to tell them what to place, but they'll actually put it in the email for you. Now, when you include an email signature, you not only improve the deliverability, but you also improve the trustworthiness of the email, if that's even a word. And the thing is that the secret to a good email signature is to just keep it simple, right? Just do something like this. Kindest regards, Georgie Titian, founder of Borks, your email address and your phone number. Super simple. There's no styling. There's no links. There's no nothing. Just super simple. And the last thing, sending cold emails that just don't suck. Now, you could do all of the above, and if you're just going to be sending your emails to people that are relevant, if you're going to be sending, emails that just are bad, you're still going to be having bad deliverability, right? Now, if people report your email, which is a feature like on Gmail and all the popular ones, right, you're going to lose your domain's reputation, and that's going to in turn affect your deliverability. Now, a bad email is classified as something that is irrelevant to the lead, seems deceptive or rude. You have poor follow-up sequences or follow-up sequences that are too long, right? Don't email a person 100 times. Don't do that. Especially, obviously, if they showed interest, you could do that, but don't do that to everybody. And also, never follow up with a person if they've already said they're not interested, right? Just don't do that because they're going to report you. And one of the worst things you could do in cold email is send emails to irrelevant prospects. Now, imagine you want to work with local businesses and you start writing scripts to target restaurants. And you maybe mention, the script is meant for restaurants, directly in the email. Imagine you own an HVAC company and then all of a sudden you're getting emails targeted at you for restaurant owners. You're going to be like, what is going on? And you're going to probably report the email, right? So don't do that, right? Now, the other points that I mentioned are just as important, but you guys get the point. What I'm trying to say here is don't write bad emails, right? The key thing to remember is although we've covered a lot of content thus far in the document, cold email is actually very simple. All it comes down to is provide a relevant offer to the relevant person at the relevant time with relevant proof, right? And this is kind of an extreme example, but imagine you offer a cure to cancer to someone with cancer and you've cured cancer thousands of times before. What do you think they're going to say? Let me talk to my wife? Nope. No, they are not. They're going to say yes on the spot. It's a relevant offer to the relevant person with relevant proof. They're going to do it. Okay? Now, that's about it for the video. But before you guys go, I do want to mention one thing. If you do want to let us do your cold email for you, and you only pay us if we get you results, that is something that we offer. Now, although this document has been rather extensive, cold email isn't just about deliverability. You still need to figure out copywriting, split testing, offer creation, offer positioning, call to actions, awareness and commitment levels, lead list, segmentation, personal brand after the initial email, and so much more. If you'd like us to just do all of that for you, and you just want to get the results like this, where you have 48 possible prospects, 169 possible prospects, 99 possible prospects, tons of meetings coming in, right? Your calendar is going to look like this. You're going to have 67 opportunities in a month. You're going to have perfect deliverability, right? On a complete paper qualified call basis, meaning you're only going to pay us when we put you on a call with someone that shows up, makes enough money to work with you, has a business in an area that you want to service, and is an actual decision maker that can tell you yes or no, then you can book a call with us below. Once again, this document is going to be in the description, so everything you might need is going to be there. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. This is still relatively a small channel, so I really do notice every single person. But with that being said, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye-bye.